Yes, welcome back. It is time now for us to go into our discussion today on Daybreak Africa. Now, Global Hunger Index (GHI) is a tool that attempts to track and monitor hunger globally, also in regions and in countries. And for that reason, today we shall be focusing on Nigeria hunger crisis situation. That is what we shall be taking a look at. Now, remember, during the Salah celebration, Tinubu, our president, actually made a statement that Nigeria is not the only country where you have hungry people, but going by statistics, we have other nations undergoing the hunger crisis also. But that is not our problem today. Our focus is on Nigeria, like I told you. And to help us understand Global Hunger Index, we want to take a look at reviving Nigeria's green revolution towards food sufficiency. To discuss this topic today, we have a guest in the house. He is Dr. Yemi Olugbamigbe, lecturer, Department of English, Afuad, Ondo, is a scholar in African literature, literary theories, and criticism. He obtained his first degree from the Obafemi Awolowo University in first class honors, then his master's degree and PhD from the University of Ibadan. He is a union activist and a grassroots mobilizer and advisor to many youth organizations. He is right here. It's so nice to have you on Daybreak Africa today.
Thank you. It is my pleasure.
So I want us to talk about hunger. We already know that a global hunger index is a tool that monitors hunger all over the world in terms of country and regions. But again, like I said at my intro, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria made a statement that really a lot of Nigerians did not took very personal. It was like a blow to the heart for Nigerians when he made that statement. I want us to start from that point as we begin to unravel our discussion today. Hunger in the land, hunger in Nigeria, and of course that statement that was made. I want your reaction through the statement and of course the hunger situation in the country right now.
In maybe identifying, recognizing, or defining hunger, the Western man will say hunger maybe is one of those abstractions. But each time I react to hunger in Africa, in our literature, in the society, I look at hunger as one of the most concrete issues. Hunger is not an abstraction, it is concrete. It is something you see physically. Go around the Nigerian society, you see hunger everywhere. Unfortunately, this is alien to us in Africa, or it is alien to us in Nigeria. That I know. We have a saying in Yoruba land that when you remove hunger from poverty, that there's no more poverty. But nowadays, if you talk of poverty in Nigeria, the first area you see this manifestation is in that the average Nigerian is hungry. Everybody is hungry. From the perspective of politicians, especially the Nigerian politicians, maybe I want to see it as an act of insensitivity for a leader in the country to say this is not the only country. I don't have to know how they feed in my neighbor's house. If my children are well fed, they are okay, then I know we are okay. If I didn't hear cries in the other neighborhood, I may not know that they are hungry. But hunger is not part of us here. Was not part of us in Nigeria, and the society as a whole. If I'm well fed in my house, By the time I'm pounding my yam, I can also hear the sound of the pestle on the mortar in the other neighborhood. I know that everybody is feeding well and they are going to sleep well fed. But for the leader of a country to say we are not the only nation, and he's not bothered by the index that we have of hunger in this nation, is unfortunate.
I think what prompted to such words is the fact where we know for a fact we are having a global challenge generally. So it's not more like Nigeria is the only or is the only country suffering this particular challenge. But the question is our own challenge or situation kind of different? Is it unique? Was it avoidable? But we just tend to, steer ourselves right into the storm.
Exactly what I'm trying to say. We have never had droughts in Nigeria in the past 10 years. The rains have been falling, if anything, maybe falling more than necessary. So the conditions that impose this hunger on us in Nigeria are self-afflicted.
Okay.
We brought them on ourselves, especially the leaders, where farmers can no longer go to their farms to plant, to harvest,
about insecurity.
because of insecurity. Where government is paying lip service to this, our heart goes out to those who have suffered this. We we are on top of the situation. We shall bring them to book and things like that. All those are mere lip services to the situation of Nigeria. If the government had maybe done the needful, then there wouldn't be this hunger in the land. For instance, honey. This honey, we find it everywhere in Nigeria, from south, southwest, northeast, northwest, everywhere. At a time, you need to go to places like Ishenyi, and you have them in very large quantity. Each time I traveled in the early 2000s from Ondo here to Abuja, you get to villages where farmers will put honey in their containers and sell to you at very cheap prices. But now, since the herders took over our farmlands, they don't allow even the women to go there to fetch these ones. That's apart from the fact that even the crops that are planted are destroyed by herders. And these are avoidable situations. In the middle belt, where we call the food basket of the nation, today, you see heard of killing 2 days ago in very large numbers. So people are running away from their farms. So if this had been avoided, maybe we wouldn't have, even if they are hungry here and there, maybe Nigeria would have been exporting foods to some of these other neighboring countries.
Now, it's so sad that for a country as huge in terms of number, in terms of intelligence, because most times when we talk this way, some people will think or imagine that we are being repetitious. We keep saying it, but we just need to remind ourselves of how great we are as a people created by nature and God. We're created to be great. When you take statistics, how many countries in the world do you have the type of languages, the type of culture, the type of people all gathered together in one place? If we take a look at the problems that affect us as a people, especially in terms of food production, they are huge. It's good that we're starting now with insecurity, and you mentioning the Middle Belt. I remember traveling to Benue State, one of my sweetest travels ever. I went by air to Enugu, then connected by road. But when I was leaving too, I came by road to Abuja. I bought a basket of oranges then, a bucket of oranges I bought for 150 naira. I bought a bucket of kerosene mango for 200 naira, a bucket of kerosene mango. Then the other types of mangoes I bought for 120 naira per bucket. Then I bought cashew nuts, big bottle of cashew nuts for 300 naira. So that was my first experience of the food basket of the. Then you have pyramids of oranges, pyramids of cashew nuts, pyramids of mangoes, and they're just rotten away. So let us start by taking a look at the problems that affect the agricultural sector beyond, we still need to talk about the insecurity because now it is part of us. What other problems, in your opinion, the problems that affect the agricultural sector towards food sufficiency in Nigeria?
Yes, I think that brings us to this issue of green revolution that we talked about. The green revolution is also known as the third agricultural revolution. It started in the 1940s globally, and it was meant to address food shortage and hunger in some parts of the world at that time. When you call it a revolution, it means there is a situation now that we need to change, and change drastically. So this revolution was maybe was hinted at by the General Obasanjo's regime in the 1970s in Nigeria, in that slogan, Operation Feed the Nation. Then Obasanjo suspected that some things were wrong, that this food shortage was coming to us. Maybe it was not in quantity then, but in the quality of food and things like that. And these issues needed to be addressed. Shortly after his regime, the government of Alhaji Shehu Shagari, also in the 70s and the early 80s, also talked about green revolution at that period. Then, what prompted Shagari to introduce that was that inflation had affected the prices of food, and the people could no longer eat, people couldn't get the necessary things. But if you look at it in Nigeria, in the days of the regional government of Obafemi Awolowo, you discover that it was not a matter of just singing it on TV or going around to brag about it. Awolowo's government actually addressed food sufficiency, not because there was hunger then, but because he anticipated that with the growing population and this urbanization and things like that, there was the possibility that food production would drop and the consumers will increase. So he brought about this revolution into Nigeria, and it affected virtually all the facets of agricultural practice in the country. Cash crop production, where we have cocoa, cotton, palm oil, and all those ones. And we also have animal husbandry, where we have animal settlement in Shenyi, Shakiria. We had this cow thing,
which we can actually see in our currency, which is representative on our currency. On our currency. Go on, sir.
So now we also had, we tried to maintain the balance between domestic consumption and export earnings through agricultural practice. But you now look at it in Nigeria today and see what is absent. This green revolution aimed at preventing hunger, like I said. People should no longer be hungry. There should be sufficiency. Then when you don't buy everything, you can just imagine Nigerians buying canned tomatoes, buying all those things. When we could, we could produce all these things in very large quantity and still export. Then it will affect our finances and what we have in the economy of the nation. So these were some of the things practiced then. And the Green Revolution aimed at bringing improved varieties of crops.
Seedlings.
We don't have to wait a whole year before we harvest cassava. We don't have to wait 3 months before harvesting maize. We don't have to wait for a whole year before harvesting fish and things like that. So that's one. Then it also aimed at bringing in chemicals, fertilizers, things that will also increase the yield. And finally, it aimed at providing for mechanization, very large farms. There will still be this cottage farming, But then aside cottage farming, we expect to have 1 or maybe 10 men able to field the whole of Ondo. When I was growing up in this same community, tomatoes was never sold. We didn't buy tomatoes.
Why?
People produced. So tomato was not a commodity in the market.
It was planted by
farmers, households, consumed within them. I knew that then somebody would see tomato plants on my father's farm and ask my mom, have you harvested the ones you want to use? Yes. Can I go there and harvest? It was not sold. It had no commercial value. So vegetables too, that's the way we consumed vegetables. There are some vegetables who will see in your compound and they will say, can I have this? They will have. And so people had sufficient. So they didn't have to go after buying it. But now, how many people plant? Even if people plant now, how far can the supply go? So that's why we need mechanization and things like that. How many mechanized farms are in Nigeria today? We used to hear of Obasanjo farms. We used to hear of this man in Niger State, General Gadonasco. Gadonasco used to have a very large farm. All these people that were rich in Nigeria then, Tata, all those people had farms. And they were bringing products to the market, selling. They were cheap then because only a few people needed to buy more than they could produce. But now the few individuals are no longer producing, and the bigger ones are also not functioning. So that is the gap. How many farms do we have in Nigeria today? The few groups that have come together, maybe in Benue, in Kaduna, in Okeogun or Southwest, those in Aba and all those places, they can't go to the farm. It will surprise you that when you go around in those days, when you drive on Nigerian roads like you mentioned, you see plantations. So I used to fall in love with such things each time I travel, and I see, wow, you just see plantations. Unending
It's been a long
scenario.
time we saw anything like that.
You can't
in
see
recent
anything
times.
like that now because the people are even afraid
To go to the farms.
people go
because
to
of
their
security.
farms. I knew of a man in Edo State, Akoko Edo area. He retired as a school principal and took all his earnings into farming. Hired some gadgets and was planting and things like that. Kidnappers went to his farm, picked him up, kept him for some time. Because nobody could raise the ransom, he was killed. And nobody to take up his farm.
The case.
So all these things are interwoven when it comes to the problems, the lacks, and the problems inflicted and things like that.
Now, talking about the Green Revolution, just to add to what my guest has said, talking about the objective of the then Green Revolution during the Shagari regime. The objective was to become self-reliant in basic food requirement, to ensure adequate, reliable and safe food supplies for a rapidly growing population, to raise and stabilize the nutritional standards of Nigerians, to ensure stability in food commodity markets. 5, to ensure fair and reasonable levels and distribution of income among food producers. Thus, if the Green Revolution is to be given more concentration, then it will allow agricultural operations on a large scale, increase potentials to grow any crop anywhere, and also eliminate the need to fallow lands. I know Ezekiel wants to ask a follow-up question, but I just want to say that if we have this on paper, like we call it a drawing board, if we have this objective written in black and white, how come we are where we are today? How come for today this cannot be revisited and re-implemented? Though again, we're putting insecurity, which the government is supposed to tackle. If we put that aside, which still needs to be looked into, if we have this objective as a blueprint, why are we where we are today?
Simple policy somersaults. we don't have any stability, no plan. Even when the same political party is producing a succeeding government, all the policies of the immediate past are jettisoned. Maybe somebody wants to make his own name, somebody wants to make his own impression and let people see that I'm not completing what somebody has started, I want to start my own. The first one that we talked about in the regional government of Awolowo, it was also, agriculture was thriving in the north then. That was the days, those were the days we had the granite pyramids and things like that. But when Agui came, you know, the regional governments had their own plans on paper and things like that. The northern one, the eastern and the western. But when the military government came with their unitary system of government, they said, hey, all these things, they threw overboard. The soldier himself was never a farmer, he never had any plan, he never had a manifesto or anything. He threw all those things away. This green revolution you're talking about came after the Olusegun Obasanjo's attempt, which he called Operation Feed the Nation. And even then, we still had some farm plantations and all the rest. When Shagari came, the focus was on oil. So they left the issue of farms and things like that, thinking we could import everything. That was the period that actually resonated this idea of money is not our problem. We had the money. But shortly thereafter, we went into some comatose and the money ran away. So the moment Shagari was toppled, military took over again. The military was not interested in any farming. They are not grassroots people. So they didn't know anything that was happening. So if you talk about hunger, they didn't know there was hunger, they were well fed. So the policies went with their initiators. So these ones we are talking on paper now, you may not find them even in the Ministry of Agriculture in Nigeria. Maybe the only places where you have them are in the Ministry of Information and the other places where they keep records. So the next Minister for Agri that was made by the soldier may be a lawyer. So when he gets there, he's trying to look at the legal aspect of this and that, he jettisons. The next one that comes, maybe he's a teacher, and he's looking at how can students do all these things. He puts them aside. So it is just that our policies don't last. We don't have a policy. Look at a place like Israel. Look at a place like even in the Arab countries. Look at Libya. We want to do this, the policy is there. And for the next 30, 40 years,
just follow through. It is
so, and then it starts yielding. Or the policy that is truncated midway cannot yield. That's why in most countries of Africa, where like somebody said about the Caribbeans, he said governments and rains are falling. You know, in that place, rains fall very frequently, intermittently. I said that is the way governments too fall. So in Africa, governments fall like rain. So when this government falls, all the policies are thrown into the ditch. That's one of the reasons.
At least now we understand the original vision of Nigeria's grain revolution. We understand certain factors that led to that decline. I think many tend to point the finger at the emergence of oil, which you did mention. You mentioned lack of continuity by the government. It's more like a lack of focus. And I think one fascinating one you mentioned was the issue of policy. I tend to wonder, is it that we lack policy as a nation, or we lack a proper implementation? I mean, currently I know this administration is one very, very good with policy making. But although we tend to question certain level of its implementation. Now, how far do you see this present administration, trying to bring us back to this green revolution once again? Do you see them working towards sufficiency in food?
I think now it is obvious that we have to look at that alternative.
Okay.
The central government, they can only talk. We don't have similar problems. The problems differ from one region to the other. So I was enthused when 2 weeks ago I heard that the Western governments in western parts of Nigeria, the south, so-called southwest, Oyo, Ogun, Osun, Ondo, Lagos, and Ekiti, that they came together and tried to look at a regional participation in food production. That one can work. That can work. If the middle belt governments also come together, because they plant different things, that land may not be sufficient in Plateau, but you have it in Benue. We may not have sufficient land in some areas, you have it. You have some facilities. Some state governments have the financial capabilities to do certain things. Some lack. So if they come together and collaborate, it will work. So this one they have just started in the southwest would work. So they're actually looking at it. And you see, when we cry hunger, the Yorubas have one word for hunger, ebi. So when they are shouting ebi, the one it is resonating in Ekiti, people in Oyo are also hearing it. In Lagos, they can hear it. You see, it is possible for them to come together and arrest the situation. It is possible for the government in the southeast. I also watched the plans of the Rivers State government on food production, agriculture, and some other things. I watched the economic plan of that state on TV, and I saw what they are planning. Now, we don't have a choice. The citizenship have been, we've been chased to the corner of the wall. And hunger is the only thing that can make people fight back. Initially, they were using this hunger as a political instrument to fight us, to make us vote for them. Vote and cook soup. Vote, and this is where they give you some paltry sum of money and make you vote for them, because here we have very short memory when it comes to we have suffered for so time. But now the quality of hunger in the land is no longer affecting the poor man alone, it's affecting everybody. If you have to go and buy tomatoes 5 pieces for 1,000 naira, even those of us who were supposed to be called the middle class in those days, because of the job we do, medical doctor, lawyers, lecturers, and things like that, there is a limit to which we can afford all those. So everybody is hungry now, and the time will come when hunger will draw everybody out, and they won't have a hiding place. So they are working towards it. And now, even when the central government, as the federal government, cannot address it single-handedly, they are now telling the state governments, go back to your state, go and enforce pricing regulation, go and enforce planting, go and give them fertilizers and things like that. I think this government is doing it. And especially the person that is at the helms of affairs in the country today. I'm not, by my training, I'm a unionist. I'm not trained to sing the praise of any government. I'm not trained to say they are there when they are not there yet. But what I can see, I'm from the fact that Lagos looks different from many parts of Nigeria. Maybe the influence of the man in Nigeria now is what has worked so far in Lagos. Lagos opened a community market, open community markets. The type we used to see in South Africa, the type we used to see in some foreign countries, where vegetable will keep in the store for a whole week, for 2 weeks, without going brown, without going sour or things like that. It's not even done in Abuja there. So now, maybe when we replicate things like that, the mango that my sister bought for so cheap in Benue would only last for 3 days or 5 days, because we don't have a way of preserving them. So now, if we have markets like that, that will keep our items and preserve them for longer, maybe the items will not just be cheap for a season. They will be in the market throughout this thing. Anytime you get to South Africa, now if I go to their mall, you see the way you buy apple there, very cheap, orange, cheap, everything cheap, My wife went for a conference in Australia, and she told me when I got to this place, I just imagine. The next day we went back, we still saw many things intact. And so if we have that opportunity in Nigeria, so it won't be that there is a season of planting, there is a season of hunger in this country. So I see this government at least doing something in the right direction. Like I said, if we are able to maintain that policy, there is hope for us in Nigeria.
We need to take a short break now. When we return, the discussion will continue. Welcome back. That was Go Start Business, where we teach Nigerians how to be self-dependent. In this time in our history, there is no way you cannot learn to be independent in terms of money. So, you don't get carried away by the tides, I tell you. So make sure you run with everything you've learned today. With little money, you can just have that comfort that you desire. So we'll continue in our discussion. Our guest is still here. So it's the second half and the final part of our discussion today. Before we went on the break, Ezekiel did ask certain questions, and our guest made his reactions to that. We're talking about Green Revolution in the country, making our citizens full, like we say in Pidgin English, belly full. That is what we're trying to do. Now, often during the Green Revolution era, talking about Shagari's regime, when I was, trying to do my findings about it, I discovered that even that Green Revolution Shagari faced a lot of problems because of corrupt practices. It says that the Green Revolution, rather than solving food problems during Shehu Shagari's administration, created opportunities for Nigerian ruling class and the bourgeoisie. It was annihilated with corrupt practices, and the program did not see the light of day because the president was unable to check and eliminate the problem of corruption during his administration. And now, before we went on the break, you were talking about what middlemen do. Let me shock you. I went to the market yesterday. It rained throughout yesterday, and I wanted to buy beef. I got to the beef man who was selling, and it was a big chunk of beef. He gave me a price. He said 5,000 naira. And I said, it's too expensive. It was a big chunk. And now, he now asked, how much can you afford? I said 2,500. He said, bring money. Because it was raining.
Okay.
And he wanted to sell. If there was no rain, he will show me off and tell me 5,000 or nothing. You gave us an example because it came as a shock to me that once upon a time in Ondo town, people didn't buy tomatoes. You said that confidently. People grew their own tomatoes and neighbors could even come to get. Talking about corruption, most times we point the fingers at government, like government is an alien for mass. What Nigerians do to each other, let's talk about it. Where you go to the market and you buy 5 miserable looking tomatoes for 1,000 naira. And you go somewhere else in that market, you get that same tomatoes for 500 naira. The price keeps changing depending on your patience in the market. So who is to blame, government or the people, in terms of this?
I sincerely feel it's a pull factor. Every reaction, according to those in the science, maybe they say has an equal reaction, or every action has an equal reaction, or things like that. In the days of Green Revolution, even in the days of the Obasanjo's Feed the Nation and things like that, some gadgets were meant to be supplied to the man on the farm. Some of these gadgets ended in the gardens and in the farms of the very few rich, powerful army generals, politicians,
who
and
could
their
afford
sponsors.
it. Gadgets meant for the poor.
Government brought them.
That was meant for the poor.
They were meant to be distributed to the farmers.
But it ended up in the backyards
In the
of
backyards
the
of some of these.
who brought the
yes. Now that's one. That's a level of corruption. Another one is when you distribute fertilizers and you say each fertilizer should go for 2 naira. The rich man will get there, pack everything, and raise the price to
and resell to the poor.
20, sell to the poor. So when the poor man now harvests his okra or pepper, he looks at a way that he will be able to use his proceeds to feed his family, pay the school children, and buy some other items that he couldn't raise on the farm. So he looks inward. He has his product, he increases the price. So at the end of the day, the corruption that comes from the top keeps spreading until it gets to the surface and it covers everywhere. What you have seen in Ondo is a very good example. If you go to Ibadan today and you buy some cucumber or watermelon and things like that, you buy for half the price it is sold in Ondo. Each of these ones, they were not produced in Ibadan. They were brought from Zaria, brought from Benue and these other places and distributed to the southwest. But in Ondo here, everything you buy in this place has an outrageously inflated cost. So the cost of living in Ondo, it may interest you at times. It is more expensive than every part of Southwest. Maybe leave Lagos out.
It was a shock to me because I just came into Ondo a couple of months ago.
Oh.
It was a big shock to me.
No,
it was like I was in another country.
Another country. That's it.
Different. The markets are different. The moment you leave your house and you go on a journey, you're actually going into mass. When you buy and come back, you're coming back to earth.
That's it.
That's the feeling I have.
So
this can't be real. It's surreal.
Can you imagine a situation where we have to take a vehicle from here to Ibadan
to get food stuff?
To get food stuff
at cheaper rate.
Salad materials, all these things, even pepper, you get them very cheap, and you still incorporate the transport costs, and you still feel okay. It's like that. Get to Akure here, things are cheaper than in Ondo. So, but at times when you look at it, it's like everybody wants to maximize his or her profit from what he or she can produce. So I think it is Nigerians are looking at it in the local parlance here. They said I don't know, instead of pitying somebody, there is a way you act and show no mercy to that person. In Yoruba land, one of that jwe, da oju. That means you don't consider that person, you don't pity that person. When government does not pity us, which we now think it is
it's the way to go.
Yes,
so we
also don't pity one another.
Yes, yes.
I told you that in the days of my parents, people used to come to our garden to pluck tomatoes, pluck pepper, okra, vegetable, and all those things. They were not selling. But now, you discover that in every garden, there is a juju placed on the cheapest item there. People place something to deter people from coming near it. When I was growing up, you see, this African apple and things like that, you know,
agbalumo,
the way
fruit,
it used to grow in
everywhere.
And we as students, we didn't know boundaries.
Oranges, mangoes,
break time, we went to everywhere and plucked. But nowadays, as the thing is fruiting, before it even ripens, they have sold.
Okay.
They have sold to one malam or things like that, and then they tie something.
They tie something.
Don't come near it. Even if it drops on the floor, you are afraid, so that you don't want to.
Well, I don't know if I'm to say this.
Okay.
But I got. My mom says, bless her soul, when you're hungry, just loosen it and put it on the ground. Then you pluck. Then when you are done, you can tie it back.
that was the radical approach we also had. When I was in the secondary school, I was in a boarding school. And around 1 p.m., when we thought farmers would have left because of the intensity of the sun and things like that, we all gathered. And our lunch would be around 2:30. So we were feeling hungry. And there was this mango on a farm across the road from our hostel. We looked at it. It was not on the compound on our campus. We looked at it and we just said, let's go to this place. As we got there, some who could climb went on top. They were shaking the mango trees and we were just eating. So we just had the barking of a dog. Blah! Ah! We were frightened. And the man appeared from nowhere pointing a gun at all of us. He said, if you wanted to eat, why don't you pluck the ones you want to eat and go away? Why are you shaking?
Shaking the tree.
So that by the time you shake, everything will drop and then nobody will be able to use it. No, he was talking and approaching us. That day, we escaped through some very radical means. The boys waited till the man got there. Some of us who were on the ground ran away. The ones on the top waited and they jumped on the old man.
Oh my.
The man came to our school. They lined all of us there. The man still told the school principal, I didn't say all of you cannot come to my farm. You can come, you are my children.
Just ask.
That was the situation then, mango. But now, though this last mango season, one was sold for 100 naira, 50 naira. Then it had no commercial value. So it is just like some of us could be radical, but some people could also get entangled with some of these things and they will pay for it. That is it. But the situation is that why should people sell mango? Then it was so cheap. So we didn't see any reason to sell.
Now, a lot has been said as regarding food, but I tend to wonder how best can we as a country, revitalize our agriculture sector. We're going to talk about food sufficiency without talking about security. So how can we revitalize this sector, incorporating security and food sufficiency? It's been wonderful. We tend to use Binitie State as a case study in this discussion. I know for a fact some time ago, you could get 20 tubers of yam, big, hefty tubers of yam for as cheap and as low as just 5,000 naira. 20 to 30 at sometimes for 5,000 naira. But currently, as I speak to you today, a tuber of yam in Daybreak State is worth 3,000 naira. And most of these challenges tend to come as a result of the herders, farmers clashes still occurring. Some communities usually empty or are empty. Farmers currently can go to their farms to even make harvest or farm or do whatever. There are roads that tend to connect local government together is not safe. Basically talking about, say, the Makurdi-Naka road at this point is really dangerous and all that. So how can the government, how can we as a people tend to revitalize this sector, not forgetting the part of security or the role security plays in this?
In the first instance, government is squarely involved. And so the government should be responsible. Let me make this a biblical allusion. When they were rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, those who were working, but a group of soldiers was put aside
to watch.
Since the state governments are going into agric now, they should start big plantations that will also be cordoned off and secured by military men, whether it is the regional security men or the regular police or regular Nigerian army. When you have that one, breaking into such a farm will be difficult for bandits, because there will be watch, there will be camera, there will be so many things to keep infiltrators and bandits away. And when the farms are large enough, sabotaging them at the same time will be difficult. That is one. So now the government is getting involved, and they are not just going to get politicians involved. Let them select people from the communities, from the grassroots,
who know the nook and cranny
of the
areas,
and who also are aware of the fact that what government is doing government is doing for us. You see, it is good to draw policies and put them on papers, put them on internet and things like that. But the poor man, the masses, don't know about some of these policies. Bring them to the media, tell them we are doing so. When we do this, yam will sell for this one will sell for this. So let the policies be made known to all the people. That is one. Then make good roads into the rural areas. People are still planting. No, banditry is not so prominent in some part of Ondo State. People are still planting. If you get to some villages around Laje and this thing, they still sell 12 bunches of plantain, ripe ones, for 12,000. And one is selling for 5,000 in Ondo. One is selling for 10,000 in Lagos. But because these ones can't move them to the market, they will sell at giveaway prices. So make roads into the grassroots. Now, it is politicians will just say that, okay, I'm the one living there. Come and make a 2-kilometer road to my house. They'll be celebrating that person. But the farms where these things are coming from, there are no roads. So do that, and then whatever thing you can do to also let these areas be motorized, do it. See, the cost of fuel is one of the reasons people are selling tomatoes and all these things at a very high exorbitant prices. So get carts, get trucks, get things that can go. When I was growing, they were supplying, moving cocoa seedlings and things like that with tractors. When I came out of primary school, I was able to operate one of the tractors because I was helping them to put cocoa into the tractor and things like that. So one day the man just said, this thing is very easy, you just turn like this. Before I knew how to even ride a motorcycle, I knew how to operate that thing. That's the way some young ones will also take interest in helping to move this agricultural equipment. Then, when I was in primary school, we had a school garden. We produced some things. How many schools still have this garden?
My school too, agriculture or agric.
There was a day on Wednesdays from 11 o'clock maybe
yams,
to 1.
Okra and
so
maize.
Many things. By doing that, I know the value of agriculture today. In my house, I plant vegetable, I plant so many things. There was a time I was telling my wife this, I said, there was a time I was uprooting about 100 tubers of yam around my quarters on campus. I have a residential quarter on campus. I was uprooting about 100 tubers of yam. I eat my plantain round the year. There. So I knew all these things and I felt the pain. So if I have to buy, there was a day I wanted to buy banana, a bunch of banana. The woman said 3,500. My wife said, it's okay, pay. I said, how can I buy a bunch of banana for 3,500? She said, how much do you want to buy it? I said, this one should not be more than 1,000 or 1,500 at most. My wife laughed. She said, let them cut it into the pieces they used to sell and go and price one of the pieces. You know that each piece there will cost about 500, 1,000 or so. So when you now multiply with the number of pieces you have on the bunch, that is what that woman is selling. It's not the bunch that you know. So all these things, individuals should be involved from now. If you carelessly leave the seedlings or the seeds of tomatoes or pepper in the crevices in your compound where you have it will sprout. And before you know what is happening, it will also give fruit. So there's nowhere you plant that you cannot reap in this country. Everybody should be involved. So that at least if you feed yourself, I feed myself, then there will be very few people to feed.
Let's talk about our agricultural research institutions in Nigeria. How best could they be strengthened to develop climate-resistant crop varieties and innovative farming practices? In fact, over time, have we been doing enough to strengthen this sector, talking about the agricultural research institution in this nation? Or do we even have a working one? You know what I mean, a working one You know what I mean by the concept?
Your question is leading. It's like we're asking a question with an answer. We don't. And that's what, when she said these policies, I said, I don't see them as policies. We don't have policies. IITA is there. I bought a budded citrus plant from IITA in, I think, 3 years. I saw fruit. I was plucking a grape, plucking this and things like that. By the time that we used to plant, for 20 years, it won't fruit. When I was growing up, the kind of cocoa that my father planted, we called one German, we call another one Amazing. If I still see them now, I see, if you pluck the fruit and you bring, I will say this is German, this is Amazing. But the agricultural regime of Awolowo, when it won't die within the first 10 years. So they brought some cocoa to our this thing, and we discovered that in 3 years, cocoa was giving fruit. 3 years. I helped my father to plant one cocoa here, plant one plantain there, plant one cocoa. So the plantain will canopy over the cocoa, and within 3 years, you start plucking cocoa. We still have them in IITA, but they cannot enter Ondo.
Why not?
Because nobody has been giving that kind of orientation that you can have a plant that is growing at so time and things like that. So the government should also do more. Do we still have agric extension services in our, at a time in Ondo State here, we have agricultural development program, ADP. It got to a point, the state government said all we see about ADP is vehicles. They have this Hilux trucks. So many of them, so many vehicles. Say we have more crops and more vehicles than seedlings and plants. So now when my wife just joined the ADP, she was in charge of women in agric from this session to SLD, Ilaje, Ondo, Akure. They divided Ondo into two: one woman in the north, another woman in central and the south. My wife was there. They were racing snails. So homestead fish ponds, all these things that people could do, and they were going from house to house to educate women who are not even farmers to go into cottage farming. Do you know a snail is sold for 2,000 in Ondo here today? One snail that is big for the table, this thing, 2,000 naira. So if you raise 2,000 snails today, you are a millionaire. But nobody is giving them any such orientation, and you don't need a farm to raise snail.
Just in your backyard.
Your backyard. You just need to plant a pawpaw tree or cocoyam and put tires together, put a net on it, and prevent ants from getting there. And that alone is a delicacy for rich men. Rich men will pay any amount to buy snails. So people are not doing that. Nobody is educating these people. Who is going around our schools to give lessons on agriculture? Nobody. Even the agric teacher is not practicing agriculture, any type of farming. So all these things will bring us back to that trend where we can farm in our neighborhood. We can also chase, if you have a pawpaw tree in your neighborhood and it is that hybrid and it brings about 50 fruits. You know the number of days you used to eat that? If you make that your lunch every day, you will eat and you go to sleep. So these are some of the things we need to bring back. It is not just making the policies and keeping them on tables. We have to go to schools, go to homes, educate them. Then the people that were doing it. They were paid by government to do it, and those people were doing it as a duty. And people were practicing it. There were competitions. In my days, when we want to have harvest in the church, you bring agricultural inputs, farm produce, you bring to church. Some will bring the best cocoa, some will bring the best yam, some will bring plantain and things like that. They were using them for competition. Now they are interested in envelopes. No, so many things that are killing this practice, they are with us.
Now, talking about Green Revolution, which is our focus, fertilizer availability, gender and age, education, which we mentioned, access to land, access to equipment, access to seed dressing, chemicals like herbicides and pesticides are some of the tools that can help us improve our agriculture and encourage people to go back to the land, to farm, to ensure that we have enough food in the country. Time is never our friend, so I would want you to have the last say on this discussion today. Your take on this discussion, your take to people of Ondo, your take to Nigerians, and of course to government.
Everybody in Ondo should do a kind of farming. If you don't have the place to hoe and plant yam, have a place to raise snails, chicken, local fowls, not even the hybrids. Those ones can die. They can have a place to raise rabbits. Have a place. A goat in Ondo is selling for between 80 and 120,000 when it is mature. If you cannot raise so many, raise 5. So that instead of going to the market to buy goat for your children during Christmas, you slaughtered 1 from your garden. Everybody should practice it. In Ondo State, they should join Ondo, the Southwest government. Regional governments should look at the peculiarities of their regions and look at how they can invest. You hear about loans. You just hear about this loan, they are gone. Loans into projects that don't last, projects that don't even surface at all. And they said, we are owing so many billions in Nigeria, trillions in Nigeria. Let these loans be put into agriculture so that at least the poor man can partake from what the country is earning. At the national level, the federal government should look at the issue of security. Everybody should come together to educate the masses about somebody was saying that in his church he learned that 10 pieces of tomatoes will sell for 20,000 next Christmas. And between now and next Christmas, you can still raise baskets of tomatoes if you must eat tomatoes. So let us look ahead, formulate policies and educate people on the policies, then facilitate these policies with materials, with other infrastructure. If you talk about land, we are not lacking land anywhere in Nigeria. I don't know, by the grace of God, I've been able to travel all parts of this country. I've been to all the states, and I don't see anywhere where land is lacking in this country. If you cannot plant yam, you can do animal husbandry. All this idea of running cows and goats around, we don't need it. I was also on Obudu Ranch, and the cattle they raise in Obudu don't go down. They don't go to the Obudu town. The ones on the ranch there, they don't go down the mountain, and they are bigger than any cow I've seen anywhere in Nigeria. So how do they keep that one? Let's learn and do things.
Well, time is not our friend. We want to appreciate our guest today. We've been talking on the topic, Global Hunger Index, Reviving Nigeria's Green Revolution Towards Food Sufficiency. Our guest, Dr. Yemi I want him to pronounce his name.
Olugbamigbe.
Dr. Yemi Olugbamigbe is a lecturer, Department of English at the Yemi Federal University of Education, Ondo, as well as a social commentator. We appreciate you so much for coming on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, my name is Anire Binitie. Take care of yourself. For me, it's bye for now.
Have a beautiful day ahead. I remain Ezekiel. Ogar.
Bye.